This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion as it's Sunday. I know I've been away the past 2 days, quite an eventful past 2 days, I must say. My ball wind up on Friday night, then yesterday just kind of relaxing, getting back into form, and here we go. As we're about to enter the real, the real part of training camp here where we get into the preseason. Right, obviously we've been in training camp since Thursday, but now we get ourselves a chance to see what these players look like in an Oilers uniform against other teams tomorrow against, I believe it is, Winnipeg, if I have my information correct. Maybe I should check that just quickly here, guys. Like I said, it's been a rough past 2 days, but the Oilers have not had a rough past 2 days. Maybe Connor McDavid had that little tumble, and Chris Russell's in protocol for concussions, and Mike Smith's under the weather, as far as I last heard. Those are tweets I've read this morning, trying to catch up. But yes, Winnipeg tomorrow, preseason action, Edmonton Oilers, let's go. That's big number one. But the question is what the Oilers will feature for lines when it comes to that first preseason game. Obviously, there's a bunch of guys that are more than likely to either go back to their respective junior clubs, back to Bakersfield today or tomorrow. So to sit here and try and speculate a full 23-man roster for tomorrow night's game, I'm not going to even bother. Don't be getting your hopes up because that's way too much. But one thing we did see, which I want to talk about, instead of speculating about rosters, we'll talk about the roster for tomorrow night's game tomorrow in the game preview. What I want to talk about is one thing we saw right out of the gates at camp, right? I'm a few days behind, I'm going to admit that. But what came out of camp the first day was the top two lines. And that's Draisaitl, McDavid, Kassian, Gagner, Nuge, Neal. So right there, that's actually something that a lot of us thought was a possibility, right? To sit here and say that this couldn't at all be the top six for the Oilers is a little out to lunch, considering what else do we have to really feature. Benson is about the only guy who could push Gagner off that second line. Chiasson, yes, he could as well, but you kind of see what the combinations already look like. I believe Chiasson was on the second line if Neal ended up on that first line. But right now, if the Oilers want to feature the old top line, that's great and dandy. We won't get to see it much, if at all, in camp due to Connor McDavid most likely not playing any preseason games for our Oilers this preseason, but it is what it is. So I guess I want to get into more my take on what this means for the Oilers if these lines bust camp and come out game 1, October 2nd versus the Vancouver Canucks, kind of what that brings for our Oilers and what that brings for us as a team this year. Because what you see in front of you, a Draisaitl, McDavid, Kassian line, guys, you know what it is, right? Draisaitl, elite scoring winger when playing with McDavid, elite all-around center when playing on his own. McDavid, franchise, tags, just the face of the NHL. You don't need to put it any other way. He is the face of the NHL at this point. And it is all McDavid all the time on that top line. Not like he's playing on the second line, so you understand that one as well. And Zack Kassian, that gritty, go hard or go home, do anything to win kind of player. And you put those three together, and guys, we saw it at the end of the year last year. Yeah, sure, you can kind of equate it to the Nuge, Ratty, McDavid line of the year previous. But I believe this line is a much better suited line to come out of camp and make an impact, right? You think about what happened coming out of camp that first game in Sweden last year. It was an absolute disappointment. The Oilers couldn't seem to find their footing in that one. Really, the Devils couldn't either, but it just struggled to get going as a hockey game, and that's going to happen when you're overseas, opening up the season, you've been traveling around Europe. Sure, that's absolutely going to happen in the first game of the year, but it just carried on, and then all of a sudden Ratty got injured and things got reshuffled, and then the depth totally crapped the bed, and it just got very, very ugly very, very quick for our Oilers, and that led to Todd McClellan being fired, and guys, it just was a mess last year. But this first line, if this is what actually busts camp, is the simple fact that you've got a well-rounded line to actually do some damage, I think. Because Draisaitl coming off a 50-goal year, he will do whatever it takes to win. He's been quoted as saying that this year. So if that means passing the puck a little bit more instead of shooting that one-timer back door, he's going to do it. And that opens up the possibility of Zack Kassian scoring a couple more goals. And guys, the key here is if you have 3 finishers on this line, and Zack Kassian, a number 9 overall draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, in an entry draft way back long ago, he is a guy who is capable of doing the finishing, capable of passing, capable of playing the pace and tempo that is required to play with Draisaitl and McDavid. Well, this is exactly right. If you've got 3 guys spreading out the scoring, no team's going to know where that puck's coming from when. And then you've got 2 defensemen back there, especially if you've got Adam Larsson figuring out his shot, Darnell Nurse figuring out how to get pucks through in every facet, not just a wrist shot, not just a slap shot. And you've got Oscar Klefbom playing with a great defense partner. And you see it just everything, if it comes together, this line could easily be the best line in the NHL. Not like last year where you could have Draisaitl, McDavid, Mikko Rantanen, and Nathan McKinnon, Kucherov, Stamkos as arguably the top lines. No, I'm talking this line could be steps above that, especially if McDavid's fully healthy. It is unreal. So to have that bus camp, that could be one of the best things for us. And of course, it's not like we've sat here and said that's not going to happen, because we've all been discussing how much Draisaitl, McDavid, Kassian line could make an impact all summer. So that one's a little bit more obvious than maybe the Nuge, Gagner, Neal line. And to look at that one, Gagner, a guy that a lot of us try to write off. Okay, this is my problem. I try to write him off. A lot of you guys try to write him off. But Sam Gagner over his career has proved to be a very valuable player. And you pair him with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Now you've got a guy who knows how to take a face-off. Does he know how to win? Maybe, maybe not. But you can step him in there, and it's better than stepping in James Neal and losing outright, right? And then you've got James Neal on the wing who can finish throughout his career. Well, you talk about Gagner, he's a playmaker. You talk about Nuge, he's a playmaker. What does that mean? That means Mr. James Neal is going to find a lot of pucks on his stick in a lot of places to shoot. And realistically, if you want to set James Neal up to have that bounce back year that is supposedly supposed to happen this year, without playing him with Connor McDavid, the easiest way to do that is have Gagner and Nuge on his line. Because Gagner and Nuge, they'll be able to set each other up. They'll be able to set Neal up. Nuge should still at least score 25-30 goals this year. But the simple fact is that 25-30 goals out of James Neal and production from the bottom 6 would change this team's dynamic 110%. You're kidding me if you don't think the Oilers couldn't be a little bit more effective based on increasing the goals for. Yes, you've got to decrease the goals against, but having these 2 lines out there as your top 2 lines potentially could do some very, very good things for you in terms of having one line that drives the team, the second line that supports the team, the third and fourth line have their roles, right? Get goals, greasy goals, whatever kind of goals you can get. No goal is a bad goal per se. And then you've got obviously the checking line that I think I've heard is going to be led by Jujhar Khaira, and there's a couple things taking place, right? And then we're forgetting about Joakim Nygard and Gaetan Oss in there as well. But there's so many possibilities in that bottom 6. We're not going to sit here and play them out before day 1 of the preseason tomorrow against the Winnipeg Jets. What we're going to play out right now is the simple fact that we kind of have an intuition of what the top 2 lines could look like. It's now up to guys to play up to that, right? Gagner, Neal, and of course guys, well, Kassian for that matter too, and guys to try and unseat those guys and get themselves a spot in the top 6. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I've been catching up slowly here on the training camp stuff this morning, taking breaks, playing some video games, relaxing. Sunday morning. Gotta take a break sometime before we get into the preseason tomorrow. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on everything so far. I know Ethan Bear's been another big ticket item as well, and actually an early 2 PP look. I missed Ryan Rashog's tweet. It's all good. We'll talk about that later, guys. Let me know your thoughts on training camp so far. Did you go to fan day? Let me know in that comments. I meant to ask that off the top. That's my bad. You see it at the bottom here. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Try and join the join things here so as we can get as many Oilers fans in the discussion as possible. I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Maybe I need to go back to bed. I will catch you in the next one.